Tag TV and Tag Radio. Be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. It's a classic country hit song by Bo Sivas, Hank Williams Jr. for those listening in Silicon Valley. The title, A Country Boy Can Survive. It's an anthem to the innovation and a celebration of entrepreneurship, praising the innate survival traits of making things happen, working with what you have, and not depending on anyone else. Well, not anyone else except your neighbor, maybe. A couple of hours north of the perimeter is an entire city that not only represents that spirit of self-determination, it's the very capital of pure entrepreneurism. That's right, Dalton, Georgia, arguably the carpet capital of the world, built by individual dreamers that were also doers. But that's the private sector side of this special city. What is really impressive is the public sector story. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, December 6, 2011, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mandela. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. The Tech Talk goes a little bit country and a whole lot of rock and roll as it goes north to visit Dalton, Georgia, and the visionary leadership of Dalton Utilities. Nearly 90,000 customers across 5 counties. Sure, it provides water and natural gas and wastewater treatment, but it also provides sophisticated, highly advanced telecommunications. That's right. A decade or so ago, the management and board of the utility had a long-term vision for the city and surrounding area, yet realized that a small market like theirs would be overlooked by the Tier 1 providers needed for the customers to have better ways to communicate not only with each other, but with a new world economy. They knew data transfer capability, both internal and market-wide, would be a necessity for the future, and it was not and would not be available. That is, unless they built a fiber optic foundation for themselves. Wait till you hear how the story unfolds, and even better, where Dalton Utilities is now and what its view for tomorrow, as we Tech Talk with its Senior Vice President, Hank Blackwood, an 18-year veteran of the utility and a graduate of Georgia Tech. He helped develop a company-wide fiber optic-based supervising control and data acquisition system. He also helped develop and launch what the utility calls OptiLink, a fiber-to-home system for advanced telecommunications, telephone, television, internet, data storage, and high-speed point-to-point services, not just for the entire county, for neighboring counties as well. Today, Hank manages the utility's entire information technology infrastructure and OptiLink business sector. What might have been Mayberry is more like Star Wars. That's right, ready for the future as the Tech Talk turns the fiber light on Dalton, Georgia, and we speak with Dalton Utilities Senior Vice President Hank Blackwood. Well, Hank, welcome to Tech Talk.
Thanks for the opportunity to give my opinions here today.
Well, I think we're kind of excited to hear about what's going on as far as northern Georgia is concerned. Unfortunately, we rarely get an opportunity of the kind of keen insights of somebody that's on the ground and involved in making things happen. One of the things for our listening audience is to realize that you guys were innovators kind of long before innovation was cool, I think, if that's ever the case. But I know that you've created a fiber optic foundation, and as a small town that was overlooked by a lot of the Tier 1 providers, it was you had to, somewhere along the line, had to make the choice of building new technology in that community rather than waiting for someone else to do it. Let's start out by going into a little bit of background about Dalton Utilities. I think, obviously, unfortunately, stereotypically, when we think of utilities, we already know, or we think we know, what they're all about, but I think you've got a different story to tell. So give our listening audience a little bit of an insight.
Absolutely. The Dalton Utilities, it's been around for a long time. We've been operating as a utility since 1889, and today we currently offer what you would think a traditional utility would offer, with water, wastewater services, electrical service, natural gas, but more recently telecommunications. We serve roughly 83,000 customers in 5 counties, and we serve those counties: Whitfield, Murray, Gordon, Catoosa, Floyd counties. Over the last couple of years, we've been changing sort of our take on things from being a traditional utility. We've had a huge push on technology. We've had a huge push on sustainable energy products, green energy products, those type of things. But in 2003, I think one of our bigger accomplishments, in 2003, we went into wholeheartedly the business of telecommunications. We launched a fiber-to-the-premise network to offer telephone service, television entertainment programming, internet service. We also offered a sort of more of a robust, larger industrial, what we call a broadband offering for point-to-point communications. More recently, we're offering data center services, warehousing, data warehousing, those kind of things.
Huh.
So that's been our focus here recently.
Well, and I guess, as I mentioned earlier, as far as a Tier 1, and we take for granted that a lot of those services are provided, say, in the metropolitan counties of Atlanta, but when we're talking about Whitfield, which is Dalton, or we're talking about Gordon County, which is Calhoun, I mean, there's a lot of economic development and even residential development that would, I wouldn't say maybe dependent, but certainly is enhanced by having that kind of infrastructure in place.
Absolutely. We, especially 10 years ago.
Especially 10 years
ago, we needed, for our own operations, and customers and other businesses notwithstanding, our own operations, we needed to be in a position to sort of grow our business, do more with less, automation, because of, not only just economies of scale and efficiencies and providing a higher quality product for a lower price, but we needed a tighter control on unmanned facilities, for regulatory concerns, all those type of things. And nobody else was going to do it if we did.
Well, and I think the insightful aspect of it, where you really were looking, or the leadership was certainly looking visionary, was that, okay, if we're going to do it for ourselves, why don't we do it as an infrastructure and do it for other people? I mean, I assume that had to be the case, because, again, most of our listening audience probably don't realize, but Dalton doesn't probably get as much acclaim as it used to, but the capital, carpet capital of the world, manufacturing center of, well, I think most people probably, unfortunately, a lot of that information used to be so prevalent and such a part of what we would have thought as hardcore, real machinery, economic development type things. When you think about data centers going into Whitfield County versus more carpet manufacturing plants, somebody had to be pretty visionary 10 years ago to even be thinking that far ahead.
Well, and I, contribute some of that long-term thinking to our board, our general manager. The idea that there are 300 carpet mills within 30 miles of our office, and there used to be 300 independent producers, and today there are roughly 3 or 4, but those same 300 mills are being used in one form or the other.
Various Shaw, and Shaw, is it?
Yeah. That's correct.
Well, and the funny part, again, most of our listening audience don't realize how rapidly that industry matured out. I mean, certainly it had been around for a long period of time, but the massive growth that everybody incurred during the real estate bubble, there were an awful lot of people who needed flooring and carpeting and that kind of thing. So you're not just talking about growth, you're talking about exponential growth that you guys had to kind of facilitate and handle, and yet continue to look on what was the future. And then, as you say, and then you had consolidation and even an economic turndown. So it's like, yow,
that's right.
What do you do?
That's
well,
right.
from what was your company's perspective on technology 10 years ago? I mean, you were, as you're pointing out, undergoing significant infrastructure overhauls, but maybe, give us an indication of some of the thought process as to the business footprint and the long-term strategy from a decade perspective.
Sure. As we begin to develop sort of an internal capability ourselves, as we designed a fiber optic-based SCADA system for our own operation, we soon realized that all of our facilities, large facilities especially, are located next to our major customers' facilities, because that's what we built to serve. And we originally developed a sort of a really high speed, sort of a wide area, metro area network to support not only our connectivity, but by talking to some of our larger customers, we thought this would be something that they could use. We went down the path with using 4 systems, ATM equipment. It was a very secure. We felt comfortable with it. Had a lot of military applications, and we knew that as competitive as this industry is, we needed to be able to protect everyone's data. So we built this at the time, this crazy fast, unheard of 2.5 gigabit network that at the time we could never have envisioned. Well, there's no way we'll ever top this out. And so we knew we needed to do something going past that, this fiber to the premise, fiber to the home venture. But then that's where we started, and it built a great foundation for us to take that to the next level, that fiber to the home next level.
I'm trying to think of what Turner used to say about being stupid or being brilliant. It's a matter of just from a visionary standpoint, depending on how the future unfolds, whether you are, bright thinkers and visionary, or how could you have done this to us? I guess it's not a fair question to ask you. Were you around? How long have you been with the company?
I've been here 18 years.
Oh, okay. So then let me ask you the question: how certain were they 10 years ago that the technology was the right long-term investment?
Gosh, we weren't certain at all. We'll have to let someone else answer the question about who was smarter.
Well, that's okay. You can claim it now because it worked. Everyone was.
But we knew that everyone was in the same boat we were. We needed to be able to do business in a different way than we'd done it in the past. The marketplace was changing for us. We knew our customers; they were in the same situation we were. So.
Did you open up, kind of the thinking kimono as far as the collaboration? Did you bring in the private sector?
We did. We spoke with some of our larger customers. We also had sort of people saw us working and building our own systems, and we would have IT directors and folks say, "Hey, is that fiber optic cable?" And what's that for? Hey, could we use that for something? We've got a need, and there again, we learned that everybody was thinking the same thing we were, but we wanted to go something that would be future-proof, something that we would build at once, let's say, and we wanted to build something that was not available to us. We were not a Tier 1 city, and we knew that Tier 1 providers were not going to look to a town like Dalton to do that. So it wasn't long. It wasn't long after we started that construction that and started hooking up customers. We thought, hey, this is going somewhere. This is going somewhere. It started picking up some momentum.
There's no way to look back and ever indicate that had that decision not been made, what that might have impacted the economic growth as far as those industries are concerned.
That's right.
So who would have guessed? Because I'm sure that the dependency on fiber optics on some of those companies in terms of how they do their own e-commerce and how they communicate and collaborate, and even ERP and some of the other software now, even cloud communications, where would all of that be if some of this stuff was in place? Well, I guess now it's a case of what's next. Certainly everybody's abuzz about the North Georgia network and some of that fiber going not just in some of the area, but I think the area is like 14 counties. I'm sure you're going to be somewhat interconnected and not directly connected. I guess I could pose the questions, what challenges do you see? But I'd like to pose it as much as what challenges and what opportunities do you see in the Georgia technology business environment?
Well, there's a couple of there's two parts to that. One is there's a purely business environment that where there's great opportunity. You mentioned like North Georgia, those folks. There's some great opportunity because we're sort of connecting these little islands. Some of the cities that have constructed either their own network or someone else has came in and built the network. We're sort of connecting those islands, and those same customers that I have, they're in the next county, 2 counties away. So that's going to be the challenge, is getting those. Let's build those bridges between those islands. That's one. I think sort of the bigger challenge, though, and speaking as a municipal operator, we sort of have a don't want to say a disadvantage, but it's certainly not an advantage to doing business against private sector because of.
Sure. In one case, you've required and got obligations, and on the other side, they've got basically no incentive.
The open records requests and those kind of things that are part of Georgia law make that difficult. The other thing that I think that we've missed, business that we've missed that we could have benefited the state, maybe even the region as a whole, is sometimes the way the state of Georgia, let's say, the way they do business for all of their offices in the state or even federal offices across the state, where we've got the ability to offer service, and with the help of some of these other network providers could offer services to several offices, but aren't able to take advantage of that because I can't offer service 150 miles from here in the state. That's a challenge, something that we're
interesting concept, though, because obviously as more technology evolves and more of the ubiquitous communication and distribution capabilities are digital, borders. What happens in a situation like what you're talking about if you've got the capability? Why shouldn't you be able to reach out? That's an interesting.
That's right, and we feel like we know our customers better. We know our local economy better than anyone else. And when a company comes in as a contractor, let's say to the state or to the feds, to build in our community, hey, we know where the stuff's got to be, where it's got to go. We know the people that are going to be working there. We've got those relationships up front. We need to be able to better maximize, use that for our economic development capability.
Well, Governor Dean is a regular listener to our program.
Absolutely.
We should hope. Well, unfortunately, as I've often said to our listeners, the best interviews go quickly, and time seems to be short. I'd love to delve more into it because there's some interesting and fascinating aspects. But one last question would be, and I think we've kind of covered it a little bit, but from your perspective, technology, bottom line, what has it meant in terms of economic expansion or none as far as Dalton is concerned?
Well, I guess the perfect storm that's rolled through our country, and especially here locally with the economy and the way things have changed with financing new homes and then flooring and those requirements, all those changes, I think you could maybe measure our success here is economic retention. We've had those same facilities that are here. Nobody's packed up and moved away. All of those headquarters are still here. They're still taking service, and it's because Dalton has always been a sort of as I mentioned earlier, these 300 companies that are consolidated. There was all these different folks, these entrepreneurs pushing to develop a product themselves, and the fact that all those people are still here. And with this network that we've got in place, it makes a sort of we call it a winning combination here, because now we've got the big city capability, but we've got that small town entrepreneurial spirit.
Watch out! That's a chemistry for an explosion right there. Well, I tell you what, I do think that's the key. You unfortunately too many times the infrastructure is there and the entrepreneurial spirit isn't. And one other thing, and unfortunately we're running out of time now, Hank, but and that is community spirit. I mean, Dalton is one of those landmark type situations that you only read or hear about, and that is you guys have got a tight-knit community that have been historic in terms, or legendary in terms of the stuff that you've been able to accomplish as a group.
Absolutely.
Well, unfortunately, our time is running out. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, Hank, to join us today on Tech Talk.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.